Naylor, helping leaders lead more effectively. My guest today is Christian Naylor, and we're going to talk about how Christians should engage with artificial intelligence. Christians, thank you for joining Leadership Lessons.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Let me tell you about Christian. Christian Naylor is the senior pastor of Russell Springs First Baptist Church in Russell Springs, Kentucky. A two-time graduate of Campbellsville University, he holds a Bachelor of Science in Mass Communication and a Master of Theology. He's currently pursuing a doctorate in strategic leadership and apologetics at New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary, where his final project focuses on developing a workshop on artificial intelligence from a Christian worldview. Christian is married to Gabby, and they have two precious children, Rosemary and Zion, and this brother is just a good pastor, and Christian, God's using you in Russell Springs, other places too. Let's just jump right in with these questions. Christian, a lot of our folks would know you and know who you are and know your family, but tell us a little bit about where you serve and a little about your ministry context.
Yeah, so I'm at Russell Springs First Baptist Church. I'm actually going on my 6th year here. Those in Kentucky familiar with Russell County, it is right on Lake Cumberland, and so a lot of tourism in this area, especially during the summertime. For my ministry context, we are a very small town. It is a rural First Baptist church, and so with that, there is your typical First Baptist, Southern Baptist folk that go there, but also what we're seeing a lot of in our ministry context is Northerners moving in, retiring at the lake, and so we have a little bit of that mix.
And you all also you have a second church, don't you? Like Indian Lake or something. Tell us briefly about that.
Yeah, so this has been a blessing. The church at Indian Hills, and so this was a former Kentucky Baptist church. It had went under, and the you guys in the KBC gifted us that building. And when Ryan Coffey was here, Dr. Coffey now, he was able to lead our church in planning there. And so we're excited this summer. We're taking big steps on trying to get that church plant to become autonomous.
That's great.
It's there's been some challenges.
Sure.
We've survived winters because this church is right off of the boat dock. Yeah. And so during the winter, everyone moves out. But it has survived 2 winters now, and so we're ready to start this autonomous process and launching the church.
Yeah, good job. I mean, that needs to happen, Christian, all over Kentucky. We have so many facilities, and in many cases, they need a restart or a fresh start. And so thank you all for your leadership and your sacrifice. That's just not easy to do, and it costs a church something to do it, but it's ultimately a kingdom investment. So thank you for that. So let's talk about artificial intelligence. What exactly is AI, and what led you to pursue a doctorate with this as your project?
Yes, so that's a great question. So I'll start with what is AI. So AI can be broken down into really two categories. The first category is what we'll call weak AI, and that's what it's deemed. Weak AI, also known as narrow AI, is what we have today in our world. And so it's infused in your things like ChatGPT, social media, Amazon, all these different areas use what is called weak AI. Now, what does weak AI do? Well, really what it is think about it like this. It's a computer program or computer systems that are trained, and these computer systems, and this is a key word, they simulate human learning. If you're familiar with Dr. John Lennox, the famous mathematician from Oxford, he's actually very involved in the world of AI. And when he talks about this artificial intelligence, he likes to emphasize the word artificial and the word intelligence. AI does not think. It simulates human intelligence. It has been given a huge database to learn from and learn patterns and develop from those patterns, but it does not, as of now, it does not learn. Right. And but also the idea of artificial, it is artificial.
Okay. In the second category, now you said weak AI. Did you mention the other?
Yes. All right. So the second category. So the second category is what you think about when you watch your sci-fi movies, or when you watch The Terminator, or me and my wife just watched one on Netflix where this AI program got super intelligent and wreaked havoc on a community. So this is the AI that we're scared of. As of now, this AI, strong AI, is just theoretical. It is not a thing right now. Many believe we will get to that point. So it's also called ASI, which stands for artificial superintelligence. And this is when AI overtakes human intelligence and surpasses it. And even some get to the idea of it will form its own consciousness,
Wow.
become droids, and take over the world. So
Yeah,
that's
there you
your
go.
strong AI. It's only theoretical, though.
Sure. All right. So, what made you want to look at this as a doctorate focus for your training at New Orleans?
Yeah. So when I was so my emphasis is in strategic leadership and apologetics. And when I got in, everyone was talking about their final project. I was just glad to be in the program. I did not
Understood.
know what I wanted to do. And once I got in, I took a few classes, and me and Ryan Coffey, we were at a birthday party, and we were just hanging out. And he said, "Man, you need to think about doing your project on AI." And I was interested in artificial intelligence and kind of looked into it a little bit. So I went home. I prayed about it. I bought a book online, and it was happened to be Dr. John Lennox's book, 2084, which I highly recommend. And I fell in love with the idea of AI and its connection with the Christian worldview,
Okay.
and how Christians need to answer some of these tough questions. And so once I read that book, I was 100% in and went through the doctoral classes and started kind of forming my classes to fit this model.
Yeah, that's really good. So, how have you seen, Christian? How have you seen AI like already impacting everyday life and ministry? You mentioned a couple of things, but give us a couple of specifics of ways you see it impacting.
Yeah, so in the world, it's impacting everything. I mean, it is. I've had people say, I don't like AI, but I come back with, well, you use social media, don't you? Well, yeah. Well, AI is controlling what you see on social media. I don't like AI. Well, you shop on Amazon. Yeah, and you really like when it picks that dog food that you like. Yeah, artificial intelligence. And so it is infused in so much. Our maps, our Alexas. My little daughter uses AI through Alexa, and it's incredible to see a 3-year-old talk to this artificial intelligence through Alexa. It's insane. But Dr. Gray, it is already in everything. In ministry, I've seen a great impact. So me and our next gen pastor and then our executive pastor, we use AI every single day.
Okay.
And we use it in our jobs and our everyday life.
Yep.
We use it in ministry a
Give
lot.
give us a couple of examples of how you use it positively in ministry.
Yeah, so in ministry, one of the ways I use it, and this is actually, I was in a seminar, probably the leader in Christian AI right now in practical use. His name's Kenny, and I think it's pronounced Zhang. Kenny Zhang, he is the founder of Church Tech Today and AIforChurchLeaders.com.
Okay.
And we'll put those in the show notes because those are great resources. The way he described AI to me, I was in one of his seminars a few months ago, and he said, you need to think about AI as a smart seminary intern.
Okay.
So what I've done is all these tasks that I don't like to do or I'm not good at. So for me, Dr. Gray, organization, I am not good at. Processes, I am not good. Those are not my strong suits. So I'll use AI to help me develop staff meetings. And it has helped make our staff meetings more efficient. And what I'll do is I'll just put in the subjects I want. I'll put it into a program like ChatGPT, and I'll say, I need this staff meeting done in 40 minutes. And boom, I can print it out as a PDF or whatever I want. And it works. Now, here's what I use it for the most. And this is for pastors. There's lots of talk about, can pastors use AI? And I'm sure you've thought through some of those questions. As a pastor, so thinking about it as a smart seminary intern, I use AI to help me research biblical topics, doctrines. For example, if I'm doing 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9 this week, and I already have my outline done. And so tomorrow when I go to do my sermon prep, one of the things that I will probably do is I will probably say, hey, give me examples on where in the Bible it uses the term a holy nation or a holy people. Or what are some of the common ideas on being a chosen race? It will give me several answers. And what I do is it's almost like me giving that to an intern and telling them, hey, go to the library and look up all the materials you can on 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9.
Yep.
Now, if we did that with an individual, there's nothing wrong with that. It's the same with AI. I give it information, it brings it back. Now, here's where the key is for pastors. It's our job to filter through and to see, is this biblical? And are these resources trustworthy? Now, sometimes AI, depending on what program you use, it can give links. But I always encourage people, hey, use it as a tool to research. Go look it up yourself, but it can help you break down information in ways that you might not be able to as a human.
So if you wanted to see John Piper, John MacArthur, Adrian Rogers quotes on 1 Peter 3:9, you can put that in and you're going to start getting some information that way. And you just have to kind of filter through it and make sure that you're being careful to know what's trustworthy and what's not trustworthy. Have you seen mistakes in any of that? Have you found something like that?
Gosh, yeah.
Not right. Yeah.
So there's something called hallucination. Have you heard that term before?
I have heard it. Go ahead and explain.
So AI hallucination is when it, for some reason, doesn't know the answer. It will still give an answer.
It'll just make something up.
Yeah.
So it's like a guy with a lot of pride that's being asked a question. He doesn't know the answer, and here's the answer, and it's just nowhere near anything like correct. Yeah.
Yep. And you have to also, so AI, it's predicting things. It's trying to predict human patterns. So I noticed, I used it the other day in my project. And we have to be really careful how we use it in our project. But what I did is I did a survey for our church on artificial intelligence. And out of 174 responses, I implemented all the responses. And I said, break down these categories for me. And it did it.
Oh, wow.
Well, then I had it come up and help me with my bibliography and resources. Well, immediately I noticed it got the authors' names wrong. And so I had to go in there. So that's why it's important to check. Like, even if something as simple as an author's last name, it still got it wrong. Yeah. And so always check. It's not perfect.
Yeah, good. That's really helpful. All right, so Christian, what are some common misconceptions that people may have? I think you've already mentioned a couple of them, like we're at a place of strong AI take over the world. But what else would be a misconception, folks?
So I think the biggest one, and what I've found with even some people in our congregation, their ideas towards AI, that they have these great fears about it. And I think a common misconception, what I've found, is that AI is evil. Because of these movies or this literature that shows like, hey, AI taking over the world, this idea that, oh, it's automatically evil. Well, we first have to realize AI is just a tool.
Yeah.
It is a tool. It can be used for evil the same way. If Dr. Gray, if I was in that room with you and I hit you in the head with this pen, this pen didn't do it. I did it.
Right,
and so I would never do that. But
thank you.
That's I think that's a big misconception, is just that AI within itself is evil. There's ways that it is used for good now. For example, the medical field. We need to be rejoicing in the Lord God Almighty for AI advances in the medical field.
Okay.
My daughter's age, and I believe in my Zion and Rosie's time, there might be a condition that when they get older that AI might solve, and me as a parent, I will rejoice in that if it ever came to that.
Yeah.
But of course, there's bad.
So it sounds like that at the very least, it's a big time saver for a whole lot of things. At least get something moving that would normally take a lot of hours. So,
yes.
So Christian, I don't think you've kind of answered this, but you're working on a 6-week workshop for your church. What are you hoping to communicate to your church about AI on this 6-week workshop?
Yeah. So in this workshop, what I'm doing is I'm using what they gave me in the survey. And I am taking that and answering their questions.
Okay.
And I'm going to add some of my own research that I see as topics for AI. But what I did is I was able to break down the surveys, and there were a lot of questions. One of them were the fears of AI.
Yep.
We're going to be able to talk about those. Some of the concerns, like the future concerns of AI. There are ethical concerns of AI that we need to talk about and answer. But also, how do we answer some of the AI concerns from a biblical and Christian worldview? That's what the workshop's mainly going to answer. And so we're going to look at things like, all right, if we go down the artificial superintelligence route, the biggest question for which I am still not a firm believer that that's even possible because of my Christian beliefs, but that's a whole nother podcast. If that were to happen, we have to answer the question on what does it mean to be human? What does it mean? The Imago Dei. Why is the Imago Dei so important?
Yeah.
My lights just went out. I'm gonna turn my lights
All
back
right.
on, Dr. Gray.
Okay.
There we go.
There you go.
But
So
that workshop's going to answer those questions. So
yeah. So Christian, what are some practical ways that you see AI helping a church? You've mentioned a couple of things for a pastor on research, but maybe think about your church office, the broader ministry that you all do, apart from your preaching ministry. Do you see other ways that a church can benefit from having a basic understanding to utilize AI as a tool?
oh yeah, I see probably a million. I could tell you, if you ask me, Christian, how many times have you used AI for your church just today?
Yeah.
It would be over 25 times.
Okay.
Just, and we're recording this at whatever time it is. It's already 25 times.
So, okay.
Um,
So apart from your
so what I
sermon prep,
do is,
apart from your sermon prep,
yep.
tell us some of those ways.
So we had me and our next gym pastor, we were trying to do something in the sanctuary technology related and trying to figure out a problem because we needed to stream something for a service next week. We had no idea how to do it. Me and him both got on our AI program. We used ChatGPT. We asked these questions, and somehow, by some miracle, we were able to figure out something that's way above our pay grade.
Yeah.
By just asking questions like, hey, is this possible to do on a computer? How would you do this? It answered it for us just like that. And so let me give you another one. We actually use this one. This is probably very helpful for churches. Our executive pastor, Jared DeVore, he is over, some of the executive work involves policies and things of that nature. A few weeks ago, we started the process of changing all of our Go Center policies, which is the Go Center we rent out as a church. Mm-hmm. We already had a base foundation for our policies, but what we did is we took those, we put them into an artificial intelligence program, and then out came a beautiful set of policies for the church. Now, don't just take them and vote on them right there. But we took them into a deacon's meeting. We did some edits as a deacon group, and then we presented them to the church. But it saved a lot of time for our very busy executive pastor.
It makes perfect sense. It provides a starting place. It gets you a few hours down the road on a project. You still have to do the leg work and the mental work on your own. I think it sounds encouraging. All right, so we've talked mostly about the positives. What are some of the ethical concerns that you have from a Christian perspective about utilizing AI?
So for ethical concerns, the big one is the use of it. So for pastors, one of the things we have to watch for is us being trustworthy, honest men of God. Artificial intelligence can do a lot for me, and it can give me a lot of material that I can claim as my own. And so there's a balance in that. For me last night during a Bible study, I used AI to help me with one of my illustrations. I think that's a great way to use it as a tool for illustrations. But to use it to write my entire Bible study and to do the work that I was too lazy to do, that's a big ethical concern. But for the community, so I want pastors to think about our church members here in the next few years, and it could be quicker than we realize. There are some members that are going to lose jobs because of AI. And it might not be in the next 5 years. I think it very well could be for some. But how are we going to minister to people who have lost a job that they've put their entire life to? Because a lot of times our job is connected to our identity. And so there's going to be identity crisis. So ethically, I think, how do we handle the job loss, the crisis on what is right for companies to do as far as using AI and not using it, and the effect that it has on its people? We as a church have to realize that too. And then ultimately just the moral responsibilities as a church, as a big C church. We need to be the advocates for trustworthy AI, using it correctly in politics and in war and in all of those realms. As with all cultural issues, the church needs to be at the forefront.
Yeah, good job on that. Thanks for that explanation. So it's all prognosticating, but you're studying AI far more than the rest of us are, at least here locally. So what do you see? What are folks talking about? Where things are headed? I think I've heard you say so far, man, great research tool. but be sure and check it because it does some odd things. It can help speed up your work in some places, but not 100% trustworthy. Where do you see things going?
So I'm going to take the optimistic approach.
Okay.
I see things going very well for those who take the time to learn it.
Okay.
All right, think about when COVID hit, Dr. Gray, there were so many of us churches that were against the use of live streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, the world got turned upside down, and those churches that were against it somehow changed their mind and were able to use it for good.
That's right.
And now we see nobody even thinks twice about live streaming, or nobody thinks twice about using social media for church growth now. We have seen it. The use of internet in our church has helped us reach families. Yeah. And I know that I was counseling with a family this week that came to our church as a result of our website. AI, I'm very optimistic that we will be able to use it in a positive sense of ministry. I know that because I've already done it, and our church and our staff has used it effectively so far, and it's only going to get better.
Christian, I think folks are going to be interested in what you come up with and what you produce, especially in a workshop format. I mean, I'm thinking beyond a pastor who's going to try to be really, really responsible and careful to a church member who may be in a hurry to get a Sunday school lesson together for tomorrow, and may have David winning the Battle of Jericho, and so you're going to have to definitely help folks work that through. So your thoughts and your work is going to be important. Hey, let's switch to leadership if that's okay, and I want to ask you some leadership questions.
Yeah.
So here are some things I observe about you as a leader. I've known you for a while, and I see that you're highly enthusiastic. You lead with a good attitude. When you said you're going to take the optimistic approach, that's no surprise to anyone who knows you that you're going to try to be optimistic. You're a second-generation pastor, which means that you came out of the womb with a master's degree already in ministry, and so you're far advanced just by intuition. You're willing to lean into challenging situations. I know that about you as a leader. You're growth-minded. You're a problem solver. You're doing a great job developing people. So, hard question. What have you had to learn about yourself to lead more effectively?
So I've learned a lot just getting into the pastoral role. I've learned a lot in this new season of life of becoming a dad and a better husband and all of that combined. One of the things I've had to learn about myself is I have to prioritize what's most important.
Okay.
And for me, and the reason I say that is because what I've learned about myself is I am easily distracted, very easily distracted. And so I found myself fighting fires that weren't worth it, or putting dedicated time into things that weren't my main goal or purpose as a pastor. And so I've learned that has helped me a lot to prioritize, because I learned early on, man, I get distracted too easy and try to jump to too much.
Sure.
If I can just focus, I can have a better impact on the community.
Christian, that's great advice for anybody. Lead by priority, and so figure out what the priorities are for your ministry. How do you track those for yourself? Do you have a whiteboard set out in front of you that says, Christian, here are your priorities. Make sure you do these before you start something new, or do you just kind of have in mind what your priorities are as a pastor? How do you guard and watch over that?
So two things. First, overall priorities, we do vision and mission statement. Okay. Really, what we focus on our vision is to help build leaders, disciples, and churches that make disciples, leaders, and churches. Yep. That's our main goal. So for me, if something is not a discipleship, for me as pastor, to equip the saints for the work of ministry, if it's not discipleship focused, then I have to think, all right, is this really worth my time? Mm-hmm. I really need to think about that. If I'm not building up a leader, then I have to think, well, maybe this is not worth my time. And so that's helped me a lot. The second thing, I am not an organized guy. In fact, my wife will tell you I hate planning. I want to do things last minute. But I've learned as a leader, you have to have a schedule. Yeah. And so I started with a handwritten one, but I finally moved to digital, and mine is all my priorities are in my notes in my iPhone, and then my calendar, making sure I keep up with that with my staff and with my wife.
Yeah, good job.
That has been the biggest help.
Good job. And Christian, you were a student pastor at First Baptist before you became pastor. Ryan Coffey ended up getting called away somewhere else, and they called you as their pastor, which is just a beautiful story. All right, next question, even more difficult. What is one leadership lesson that you've had to learn the hard way?
This is what I found. No is not a bad word.
Okay.
And I had to learn that the hard way because early on in ministry, I said, and I gave out a lot of yeses. But I found out because I was like, oh, I'm here for the people. And that's what I'm
That's
here
right.
for as a pastor.
That's right.
But those yeses were causing me to say no to my wife,
Yep.
my family, and even my own ministry
Yep.
that my main priority to build disciples. And so I have learned, and this year I think I've been the best at it, saying no to things that are good things, but aren't where God has called me to. And so I learned that the hard way because I burnt myself out and said way too many yeses, but now I know it's not a bad word. So
Yeah, good. I mean, if you're learning that at the age that you are right now, you're getting set up for a great ministry future. Every yes has a no on the other side of it. When you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. And if you say yes to being out 3 nights a week, then you've said no to tucking your kids in at night and praying with them and reading to them and spending quality time with your wife. So good job for you. All right, who is one of your favorite biblical leaders? It doesn't have to be Jesus. It's okay if it is. But who is one of your favorite biblical leaders?
all right, Jesus is a given. We'll give him that. Mine is Solomon.
Okay.
I mean, minus the wives and all that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the concept of when he asked God for wisdom,
Yeah.
even in this talk on artificial intelligence, we're going to need wisdom to navigate this. AI, as we talked about earlier, it doesn't think. It's not wise, so it's going to take humans and their wisdom to help with the ethical problems. But wisdom in ministry and leadership, you know this, Dr. Gray, not every, and I had to learn this the hard way, not every leadership problem is black and white.
That's right.
Life is way too complex for that. God made it that way. It is even learning about him and who he is. It's way more complex than this is the only. I mean, there are some essentials that we know, but man, when it comes to dealing with people, black and white is not the only answer. And so understanding that there is a complexity to people and their problems requires wisdom to answer.
Do you have an example that you could share without specifics about a time when you had to ask for wisdom and God really came through in a way that you're like, man, the Lord really helped me on this one. This was not my own thinking. Anything come to mind?
Yeah. There was, I'm trying to see which ones I could use. All right, so for wisdom, let me use some things. There are some relationships that I formed, and in wisdom, it's crazy how God literally, as you pray and you say, God, reveal your will to me, he reveals things that at one point, let's say on a Tuesday, this doesn't seem as important. 3 months later,
Yeah.
in you choosing that path, God revealed, oh, Christian, this path led to this point.
Yeah.
And I know that's not as specific
No,
as maybe
okay.
you're asking.
That's okay. You're praying. You've learned from Solomon. Pray for wisdom, and God gives wisdom. Yep. James 1:5 promises, and He doesn't get upset with us when we ask for it. He doesn't rebuke us. He has plenty of it, and He's willing to give it. All right, Christian. Last question. What is one of the best pieces of advice, ministry, personal or otherwise, that you have received that's really you think helped you in ministry leadership? One piece of advice that you've received from anybody, anywhere.
All right, it was my dad gave me this, and I think this might be a D.L. Moody quote, but Jesus never taught his disciples how to preach, but he taught them how to pray.
Yeah.
And he taught me that when I was in college, and that has made the most significant impact on my preaching, on my life. And I fail at it every day, but it's the idea of the priority of prayer. It don't matter how much you know in life or how many degrees you get or how much you know knowledge-wise. If you're not praying, you're not going to succeed in the things of God. And so that's been my biggest probably helper.
That's so good. We're called to preach. Preachers are, and you faithfully study the Word of God. But you're right. And the disciples, that's what they asked for, right? They said, Lord, teach us to pray. And I think we can only imagine that seeing Jesus praying, we're like, they heard him preach, and they heard him teach, and they saw him heal. But their request was, Lord, teach us to pray. Yeah, that's incredible. Well, brother, I'm grateful for you and your ministry. It's so fun watching what God's doing with you and Gabby and your family and your ministry. Thank you for every good work that you're doing. Thank you for your faithfulness, and thank you for joining Leadership Lessons.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Gray. I appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to Leadership Lessons. An audio podcast of this program is available on both Apple and Android devices. The Kentucky Baptist Convention was created by churches for churches to help churches reach Kentucky and the world for Christ. For more information about the KBC and the cooperative program which fuels our ministry, go to kybaptist.org. We'll see you next time on Leadership Lessons.